Working drummer.
Now kick it.
This is the Working Drummer Podcast, serving up perspectives, experiences, and stories from ground-level working pros. Advice, tips, and secrets on how to build a career in the music business.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Working Drummer Podcast. I'm Zach Albetta, and this week my interview is with Charles LaMont Garner. Charles has been the touring drummer for India Arie for a number of years, and when he's not out with her, he's based in Atlanta, where he stays busy as a drummer and producer. As you may know, I recently moved to Atlanta from LA, and Charles was one of the first drummers I saw here. He was planned for a Sade tribute show, and I was just so impressed with his sound, his groove, his musicality. I was like, I gotta meet this guy. So I introduced myself after the show, and he also turned out to be the friendliest, most down-to-earth dude, so I knew I had to get him on the podcast. We talk a little bit about the India Arie gig, but the focus of this interview ended up being the life lessons that Charles has picked up from all of the mentors and experiences he's had in his professional and personal life from the time he was a teenager. He really has his feet on the ground in a way that I think everyone should aspire to, no matter what kind of musician you are or what kind of career you have. Like I said, he's the first Atlanta-based drummer that I've interviewed, and there are going to be more. There's a great music scene here, both on the local and national level, and the talent pool is deep and wide. So you'll be hearing from us here in the ATL, and I can't think of a better guy to start it off than Charles LaMont Garner. You mentioned this week you got a lot of church stuff going on?
Yeah, a lot of church stuff. Starting on Tuesdays, I have rehearsal. We have choir rehearsal and praise team rehearsals, and getting ready for Wednesday, because whatever we do on Wednesday, we do Sunday. So that's all we do on during the week for church. On Monday nights, we have the corporate band. We talked about the corporate band.
Yeah. We'll get into that.
Yeah, that's every Monday night. But as far as church, it's only Tuesday and Wednesday and Sundays.
Cool.
Which is cool. Also, really cool church. You know, it's really laid back. It's not as stressful as a lot of situations that I've, heard of people, having to be there all the time and can't leave for other gigs and gotta be back on Sunday. That whole thing. Yep. It's for me, it's a little more lenient.
And do you just play drums for the church, or are you also like a musical director? Do you sing?
Well, I play drums primarily, of course, but I do like some of the programming and stuff, like for click tracks and some of the Ableton stuff. That kind of, getting into the Ableton thing, but I'm using Logic right now, but all that backing track stuff. But yeah, that's about it.
So like the church thing has become like a production.
Well,
for a lot of churches,
for a lot of churches, it's become a production. But for us, we're in a situation where right now it's just a 2-piece band, and it went from a let me see, guitar, bass, auxiliary keys. Oh, well, when I came, it was just organ and keys. To now, just keys and drums. So, thank God for Ableton. You know what I'm saying? To make everything a little more full. Ableton and Logic. So, but we sound like a full band. Still. But, that's why it's a production, because we got to fill the gaps, so to speak, Right. But so,
and the church is where you started playing, right?
Yeah. I started. My dad is, my grandfather was a pastor. So,
in Charleston?
In Charleston, South Carolina. So it's so funny because I grew up Baptist, and in my Baptist church, my uncle Larry Brown, he used to play piano. So they just had an upright piano in the corner, and the mothers had the tambourines and the, with the batter head on it, or the open ones or whatever. And they didn't want drums in the church. Yeah, because it was like very old school hardwood floor, So we used to stump on the floor and beat on the back of the pews. Like those were our drums, you know what I mean? They tried bringing in drums at one point. I think I was about maybe 10, 9 or 10. And because the church was so small, like the mothers on the front row, they were like complaining because it was too loud and that kind of thing. But I later joined another church when I was about 14 or 15. and they offered to pay me, and I was like, "You want to pay me to play the drums?" I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll do that." So that's how I started like playing drums in church. You know what I mean? Like
as a gig,
as a gig. But as a kid, the only time I used to play drums in church outside of, because I couldn't play at my grandfather's church, was I would visit other churches or go to other like like holiness churches or Pentecostal type churches. And I used to sit under my drum mentor. His name was Quentin Baxter, and he would I'd just sit there and just watch him play, or he'll let me get on during the offering, that type thing. So that was my drumming experience in church. So
and talk about Quentin Baxter, because you mentioned him before as kind of the central figure in your drum education.
Quentin Baxter is to the younger generation, he would be my Chris Dave as far as being innovative and being like just like super creative on the drums. Like I've never heard, like he has the aggression, like we talked about, like of a Elvin Jones. Like he has that kind of feel type thing, but it's a little more open and experimental than I can remember Elvin being, as far as recordings and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, man, Quentin, like he's my mentor, man. He taught me a lot about drums, life, character in the music industry. You know what I mean? So I owe a lot to him, man. Like, I'm not like a superstar or anything like that, but he's my drum hero. You know what I mean? Like he's my, that's my dude.
And
he's still
in Charleston.
And he's still in Charleston. He has a jazz club there now called the Mez. It's on top of a restaurant called Sir Metz. And actually the owner of Sir Metz and they opened it together basically. It used to be called the Mezzanine back in the day, and used to enter through like the side entrance. It wasn't, you couldn't enter from the inside of the restaurant during that time, but it made it real funky because back in the day, like it was right on the sidewalk. Everybody came up through this like back staircase thing, and then you came in, it was real smoky and like it was old school, you know what I mean, when you could still smoke in clubs. But anyway, they closed that and he reopened it. And he's a professor, or was a professor, at the College of Charleston University down in Charleston, and and he plays for India Arie. I don't know if you ever heard of her, a jazz artist. And he's done a lot of with Freddie Cole, a couple guys, but he's a heavy jazz guy.
And did you study with him in college, or
no?
Just in the church?
Yeah, just in church,
sort of independently
at his house. Like we just shed and just go hang out at his gigs and be his his roadie
right
for a little while. When he first, like when I was about 14-ish, I would like travel with him to some of his jazz gigs. And
I remember you saying like you didn't realize it at first, but after a year or two you realized like, I'm this dude's roadie. I'm just fucking his shit around.
Exactly. I was happy doing it though. You know what I mean? And just in case he's listening, it taught me a lot, man. It taught me a whole lot. How to play in different rooms and seeing him in a small room and wondering how he has that same intensity as playing on a big stage, but you can feel him the same way without it, losing anything. You know what I mean? That is what I really gravitated towards, how to play in different rooms and how to be sensitive in any situation.
Yeah, people talk about playing the room in terms of volume, but it's, I'm as I'm hearing you say that, I'm realizing it's not just about volume, it's about your attitude and the vibe of the room, right, and just sort of matching the mood and the setting. And
absolutely. And I mean, you can match the mood, absolutely, but you can set the mood as well. You know what I mean? I'm big into like setting moods, and that's something else Quentin taught me, is how to drive the band or pull people into the situation. Because sometimes, like especially in the jazz world, like you become background music a lot of times, like depending on where you're playing. And his thing was, no matter where he played, like he made people like feel what he was doing and pull their attention to the band. You know what I mean? So it was like, you know, even if it's something like he's playing light and like just hit the bass drum really hard, you know what I mean?
Right.
Something that people kind of like turn around and like, what was that? You know, type thing. You know, just a little stuff. But yeah, that's Quentin Baxter, man. He's a beast.
What are some examples you can, or an example that you can point to of, because, you know, we've talked a little bit about how he influenced you musically, but it sounds to me like he was also somebody you looked at, like you were a teenager and he was an adult that you looked at and said, here's a guy who has a career in music. Like, what are some examples of lessons you learned about how he conducted himself as a pro?
Timeliness, just good character. You know what I mean? Not being a butthole. You know what I mean? I mean, even though most of us drummers are assholes. You know what I mean? Like we are. You know what I mean? To one extent or another. But he's just a genuine people's person, and he's a teacher by nature. You know what I mean? So it's like he carries himself as a teacher, not a snob or not a stuck-up type guy, but he's very personable. You know what I mean? So that's something I took from him. As far as being frugal, so to speak, you know, not very frugal, but I watched him do things like, you know, being a professor, you know, gigging and doing all of this and that. And, you know, he was making a pretty sustainable living, you know what I mean? But I watched him drive the same Ford Explorer, or I think it was a Blazer, maybe, forever. You know what I mean? Until he got to the point that he was like, okay, I can afford to, you know what I mean? You can always like buy something, but can you afford it? You know what I mean? Like, I need a new car right now. You know what I'm saying? Like my bumper is hanging off. You know what I mean? I had a little accident or whatever, but it's like, am I going to do it? Am I going to buy one just because I want one, or can I afford to have it? Like, I watch him, you know, be financially sane. And I just, you know, man, raising his daughter. He only had one daughter when he was in college with his college girlfriend, and he never got married. But I watched the way, you know, he fathered his daughter. You know what I mean? She just graduated from college last year. And so
and
like,
you got little ones now, so that's a whole new lesson you get to.
Exactly. But I have 4, so you know, I have 2 little ones and one that's graduating from college next year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then his younger brother, he's a sophomore in college now, and he goes to Point Park University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my oldest goes to Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So, and they're from a previous relationship, a high school relationship, you know, really young. You know, so, so watching him help me when I was 19 and had a baby, you know what I mean? And he was like, boy, I'm gonna kick your ass. But listen, it's done. So this is what you need to do. You know what I mean? Like, tighten up, you know, get your stuff together. You're not going to be a deadbeat dad at all. You're not going to be one of these musicians that's having kids all around the world. Right. So we're going to take care of this right now. You know what I mean? So because he was that influential in my life, I didn't become that guy. You know what I mean? Because I grew up kind of with my father, you know what I mean? So it was just like my father wasn't completely absent, and my father's a drummer as well. But you know, he decided to go in the military instead of pursuing a music career. But anyway, because our relationship wasn't 100%, so to speak, like Quentin, like showed me a lot of things, and not necessarily taking on the role of a father, but like some of the things that were missing.
He leading by example.
Leading by example. He's my big brother, basically. Right. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I got from him, man. Just a good guy.
Cool. Your bio mentions a trip to Europe that you took when you were like 16.
Yeah.
Was that with the church group?
That was with a gospel group called Tony and Company.
Okay.
Tony and Company. It was so strange. So I started the church that I was talking about that I got paid to start playing at when I was 15. this guy from Switzerland, I can't remember his name right now. He was a promoter. Can't remember his name. So that was a long time ago. But he came to the U.S. during a blues festival, and he was looking for like some gospel acts. So Tony was a friend of ours from, a friend of my parents and stuff. For years I knew him as a child or whatever. But he basically put a group together. We went in the studio, like this. All of this happened in like a course of like 3 days. So the guy came, he wanted to see a group. So we got together, rehearsed a couple songs, played it for him, went in the studio, recorded the 8-song tape or something at the time, and went to Switzerland for the Blues the Bop Festival, which was it was really dope. It was at in Lugano, Switzerland. Yeah. And I don't know if they still have. You heard of it?
I have. I don't know if it's still going on, but I know about that festival in Lugano and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was that festival, and man, that made me like, first it was, oh, you want to pay me to play drums, and then the next year it was like, oh, I get to go somewhere and get paid and play drums. You know what I mean? So it was like, oh, okay, I think I want to do this for the rest of my life type thing. And but especially going to Switzerland, man, it was just it was eye-opening, man. I mean, being from Charleston is a very small town. I mean, people know about it now because of, the horrors that's happened there. Yeah. But it's a very small city with in the I'm trying to be careful how I say this, but the mentality of most of the people there are small as well. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you can, like, even me saying, man, I'm getting ready to go to Switzerland to play the drums. Like, you're not going to Switzerland. You're lying. You know what I mean? Go to Switzerland to play. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's almost like a crab in a bucket type thing. But it didn't come out of the clear blue sky. You know what I mean? It's a reason for that. You know what I mean? We don't have to go into that right now, but that's another conversation for another time.
And another different podcast.
And a whole different podcast. So being that I was from there, I never saw the potential of like actually being, a professional musician. Yeah. I mean, my father's brothers, they were all musicians and they all traveled and did things, blah, blah, blah. But I just never saw it as something real. It was just something I loved doing. You know what I mean?
So what was you make this trip when you're 16 and you're like, holy shit, I can do this. I want to do this. So what are the steps you take from that point into adulthood to reach the goal of becoming a full-time professional musician? And at what point, did you become full-time professional player? Because it sounds like it was pretty early.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because it's like, during that time, I can't really say like what steps you make to going into it, because I'm just learning that in the past 10 years or so. You know what I mean? Yeah. During that time, it was such a blur, and everything happened so fast. It was just like, and then you're dealing with the young teenager with the teenage arrogance and with the, all of that kind of stuff that comes along with being a teenager. You know what I mean? That some people have still, but so I get back, and one of the lessons I learned on that trip was I won't name any names, but the person that was responsible for paying us what they were supposed to pay us didn't pay us exactly what they were supposed to pay us. So that was a lesson all in itself, so I'm like, okay. And even being a young man, I was just like, okay, I was supposed to get this, but I got that. What do I do? Do I get angry? Do I stop playing? Do I, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Next time, I'm going to make sure I have something in writing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so I'm not going to say I'm not going the next time, but the next time I'll make sure it's what it's supposed to be. So the next time, me and my mom, we went and we got a lawyer. like it was a friend of the family type situation. I wrote up something and he told me if it would work or not. You know, he wasn't an entertainment lawyer, but
right,
you know, because it wasn't, you know, it's Charleston. There's no entertainment lawyers in Charleston. But anyway, so he looked over for it. He looked over it for me and was like, okay, I think it'd be cool. Just give him that. It was this little 1-page paragraph. You know, it wasn't nothing serious.
Right.
So I asked the guy to, you know, if he can honor and sign it or whatever, and he was like, cool. You know, he kind of respected it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was maybe the only time in my music career that I've used a contract since.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's so funny. But anyway, so yeah, that was a lesson as far as steps into being a professional musician or knowing, you know, how to get into that. I don't know. So 16 through maybe 19, we went back and forth to Europe, like maybe twice a year.
Wow.
Or so. And then when I turned 16 till about 20, actually, we went back and forth. So when I turned 21, Quentin put me on this. Somebody called him about doing this reggae gig. And the name of the band was Raspungi All Stars. And I didn't know anything about playing reggae. I knew how it felt, but I didn't know anything about playing it. I didn't know the artists, like, you know, outside of Bob Marley and Peter Tosh.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know the culture of the music. So he kind of like threw me in the flames. He was like, well, I can't do it. I'm doing this. So here you go. Boom.
Yeah.
Type situation. That experience taught me so much. I did that for about maybe 2.5, 3 years. Played, like, we used to do this club called the Bubble Room in Charleston. If anybody from Charleston that's listening would remember this, because it was like the biggest night of Charleston, especially in the college world. Wednesday nights at the Bubble Room with Ross Bungie All Stars. Like, this was like in 97 through 99 or something like that. But yeah, like, that was the spot in Charleston. Like, it was packed out, like the whole thing. But anyway, so yeah, so I did that, and then and then it just kind of continued from there.
I was under the impression that you kind of, from the age of 16, were doing this, that, and the other in and around Charleston. But it sounds more like you were doing the gospel thing for 4 years, and then you did the reggae thing for a couple more years. So you were more of a serial monogamist in terms of
in terms of genres of music, which was dope, man, because like it crafted me into a more versatile musician. You know what I mean? It made me this, like one of my friends, like, gave me the name, Mr. Everything, because like it pushed me to a point that I can, like, get on the drums and, like, play authentically, just about any style of music as far as urban is concerned. You know what I mean? Like, if it's anything from jazz to progressive jazz to fusion to gospel to reggae to blues, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, you know. Like, by the time I was like maybe 25 or 26, it was like I kind of like embodied all of those styles of music. First of all, they're all really similar. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the feels are slightly different. You know what I mean? So it's just like being able to sit with real blues guys and with real reggae guys and with real jazz heads. You know what I mean? And
it sounds like you did each of those things kind of one at a time.
Right.
Instead of today I'm going to practice my jazz shit. Tomorrow I'm going to practice my gospel shit.
Right.
So you devoted kind of all your time and attention to one thing.
But the one thing that was consistent was the gospel. So like everything that I was doing, all the other genres, I still played at church on Sunday. I still had rehearsals during the week. Or I still played with a gospel group to some extent. You know what I mean? Like my cousin's gospel group called Focus. I would play with them for years. And like, we were a different kind of gospel band. So it was like I don't know, like Spyro Gyra or Somebody Meets Gospel type situation. Like we would be in my grandfather's garage and like just come up with crazy stuff to do, you know, like a lot of what the gospel music industry is doing now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we were like shedding on that kind of stuff in the 90s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the one thing that was consistent was the gospel.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you like why, because I mean your background is in gospel, that's where you started, and I was going to ask you why you didn't turn out to be a full-on gospel chopper. But it sounds like the answer is like you were in a reggae band full time. You couldn't like.
And another part of that was I love playing gospel music and being in the gospel world, but like you said, I wasn't like solely devoted to something at one time. You know what I mean? A lot of the gospel choppers, that's what they do. Period. You know what I mean? The closest, the only thing a little outside of that, back in those days was like fusion kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like we would study like the Yellow Jackets. You know, that's one of the biggest,
right?
You know, gospel guys love the Yellow Jackets. You know what I mean? I love Yellow Jackets.
Is that true?
Yeah, a lot of gospel guys love the Yellow Jackets. Like a lot of stuff that they do, like that's Yellow Jackets. You know what I mean? So you hear most gospel musicians talk about them. But yeah, so you know, yeah, outside of that, you know, yeah, that's why I didn't like really do it, because I was gigging doing other things while like my peers, you know, that was 16, 17, when they was just going like this in the gospel world, I was like this, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like learning all of these different fields, you know? So like some things, like when I come back, even now I go in a gospel shed or something and be like, what? Like, what did you just do? Like I don't even understand that. You know what I mean? But yeah, but I mean it's huge now because all of the gospel players are playing all the pop gigs, most of the R&B gigs, you know, like that kind of thing. Almost all the R&B gigs and most pop gigs type thing. So yeah. So that's.
And do you think it, in talking to you about the whole like gospel chops phenomenon, it seems like you're maybe a little ambivalent about it, because on the one hand it's where you come from and a lot of your friends and colleagues are in that, but that's not really how you play.
No, and it's not how I play at all. I don't have anything against it. But like you said, I'm ambivalent about it. Like I still believe in being musical. You know what I mean? A lot of times saying gospel chops or it almost takes on like a negative type vibe. You know what I mean? Like some people look at it in a negative way. I don't look at it in a negative way. It's just I believe you pigeonhole yourself a lot of times when that's all you do. Like if you can't discipline yourself, like, because there's a lot of gospel choppers out there. Like my boy Devin Taylor. Like he plays for Justin Bieber now, and he would be considered a gospel chopper if you saw him in that setting. But if you see him on a Bieber gig, like you would never think he can do all of that. You know what I mean? Because he's so pocket, he's so seasoned, he's so like he's in the groove of the song and of the set that you would never think that he can go in. You know what I mean? Like, but he's one of those guys. Like he can. Aaron Spears, the same. Like that's like my brother. Like he would at one time would be considered a gospel chopper, but now like being that he's playing with Usher and I can't remember the other artist now that he's playing with from Italy, an Italian artist, some big guy. But yeah, like in those sets, he's, you know, he does his job. You know what I mean? But if you put him in a shed type situation or gospel, like he's gonna chop your head off. You know what I mean? Because that's what he does. Him and his little brother Jamal Moore. He the same thing. Like Jamal is just he's a monster, man. Like he played for what's the lady's name? Natasha Bedingfield. I think that's her name. And a couple other people. He played with CeeLo. A few people, but yeah, I think it has its time. You know what I mean? Like if you can discipline yourself enough to play the music, but still have that, and when it's time for solos and everything else, you know what I mean? Like I believe it's a good thing, but I don't think it should be all you do.
Right.
You know, because sometimes in the gospel world, like if you're not blazing, as we say, like you can't play. You know what I mean? It's like I hear people now say, man, he's just too pocket. I'm like, from where I come from, it's like back in my day, pocket was the thing to be. You know what I mean? So to hear some of the young guys saying, man, he's just too pocket. I'm like, what is too pocket? What is that? Like, you know, I'm lost. I'm like, yeah, I'm really out of the game. Must be. I don't know. But But yeah, you know, that's just my opinion. I believe that simplicity always wins.
What prompted the move to Atlanta?
I kind of fought against it for a couple of years. One of my best friends was here, and it was well. First, I'm gonna talk about why I didn't like Atlanta. I'm a country boy. First of all, you know what I'm saying. I'm a country boy. I love the city. I love visiting, and I love the city vibe. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times I don't carry myself as a country boy, but deep inside I am. You know what I mean? So I love, you know, and I'm a beach bum kind of sort of. You know what I mean? Yeah. Being from Charleston, like you can always go straight to the water and just chill, and like you can get away from the hustle and bustle of everything. You know what I mean? Like I'm that kind of guy, almost introvert-ish. You know what I mean? But Atlanta, every time I came, it was fun, but it was like, man, I don't know if I can live it. Almost like being in New York or LA. It's like, man, this is dope, but I don't know if I can live here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even though I was a full-time musician, it was just like, I was cool working and doing what I was doing. I was traveling overseas, and I can come right back home. I can do, and once again, it goes back to Quentin. I saw him doing that. You know, he was all around the world and Asia and everywhere, but he came back to Charleston. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I was patterning myself after him. You know, I was saying I was taking on his approach to being a full-time musician. But so moving here, after a little while, I started when I would come to Atlanta, I started feeling this this feels like home thing. You know what I mean? I was like, no, I can't do it. I don't want to live in Atlanta. So this went on for about 3 years. Like I fought against moving. I would talk to my friends. They're like, man, just move. Like,
so you already had friends here and colleagues who were like, man, you got to get here.
Get here, man. Like, you're good. Like, once you get here, you're on. Like, I promise you, you know, blah blah blah. You know, everybody make promises, but I believe the specific guys that were saying this to me. But it was just like, nah, I'm good. You know. So I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person. And, you know, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus being my savior, you know, but I'm not, a spooky Christian kind of type person. You know what I mean? Whatever that is. But
that's another separate podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast. But, so I talked to my pastor. I said that to say that I talked to my pastor about it. And because I really trust his opinion and his, you know, and it was so funny because like a lot of people go to him and say, yo, I want to move to Atlanta. What do you think about it? All this and he's like, I don't think so. I don't think you should move. You know, so I would see a lot of people get shot down when they kind of went to him to kind of get his advice. And this is the same guy I was under since I was 15. So anyway, so I went to him and I said, man, so I think I need to be in Atlanta. You know, what do you think about it? He was like, man, I think Atlanta be a great move for you. I was like, what? You know, like, is this the same person? You know, so yeah, and then, you know, and again, I kind of like fought against even saying something to him about it, you know, because I didn't want to get shot down because because at that point I was feeling like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move, but I didn't want it to be like, no, you know what I mean? Like, because I knew if it would have been a no, it would have been like, I would have felt like it was confirmation that I shouldn't go. I would have probably felt like that, you know what I mean? Because I trust his opinion that much. But when he said that, I felt a release to be like, okay, cool. So I started making plans to move after, I think I was going to move originally in August of 2009 or June of 2009, something like that. So I didn't schedule any more gigs in town, you know, that kind of stuff. And with no anything in sight outside of just getting to Atlanta, I didn't have no gig lined up at the time. at the time I was going to stay with a friend, that kind of thing. But one of my boys called me. He was like, from here, his name is Stacy Ellis, Quick. We call him Quick. He's a drummer. He's actually from Charleston, but he lives here. Great drummer, man. So he called me and he was like, man, he said, I got a call to do this gig in Ethiopia for 3 months, like this little corporate type situation. But I can't do it because I'm too busy here. And I know you're getting ready to move. And he was one of the guys that was instrumental in getting me to move. He's like, man, you need to move type thing. He's like, man, you should take the gig, go over there, stack some money, and it'd be perfect for your move. I was like, wow. And the gig started in August. So like I said, after June, I didn't do anything, schedule any more gigs or whatever. I still had church or whatever, so I still did that until July, and then I left in August. Went to Ethiopia for 3 months, and so August, September, October, November, I was there. Came back, and then we did another 3 months over there. So I came back to Charleston for like 3 weeks or whatever.
Wow.
Then went back because we did a second tour, and then I moved in June of 2010.
Okay. Now, wait a second. What was this gig in Ethiopia?
Okay.
Because when you hear about a corporate gig overseas, you think like Dubai or Hong Kong, or like what went on in Ethiopia?
So that was my first thought when he said Ethiopia. Because from images and growing up and stuff, all you think of is that Ethiopia is flies, big bellies, and starvation, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely false. Like 120,000% false. You know what I mean? Like, so Addis Ababa is the capital of Ethiopia and the heart of Africa, period. So I learned from being over there. It's where Lucy was born, like where Lucy was formed or
discovered.
So a very rich heart of Africa, you know what I mean?
Cradle of humanity.
Yeah, the cradle of humanity, basically. And like it's the only, like where we were when I went to get my shots for Africa, like that was the only region where I didn't really have to get any shots.
Really?
It was no malaria, no nothing that I had to get shots for.
Wow.
So I didn't have to get anything at all if I didn't want to. But anyway, so the gig was at the Sheraton Addis Hotel. And the Sheraton is it's a compound. It's like this 5-star compound thing. And they had this this bar called the Office Bar, and they would bring bands in every so often or whatever. And so the gig was, we played from Tuesday. Was it Tuesday to either Monday to Thursday or Tuesday to Friday? I think it was Monday to Thursday we played, because it was only 4 days a week. Had 3 days off. We only played from, I don't know, like 7 to 10 or something like that. It was something crazy early, like 8 to 11 or something like that. So we did that with the break. And all before that we had free. After that we had free. The 3 days off, the hotel, let me tell you how great this gig was. Like, this was the dream, like, corporate gig. Yeah. But the funny thing about it is people found a way to mess it up. But anyway, this is like the dream corporate gig. Like, okay, so you're in Ethiopia, right? You're at a 5-star resort. Everything is 100% free except alcohol. Right. They had an Indian restaurant in there. They had an Italian restaurant in there. They had a French restaurant in there. They had like this buffet style restaurant type thing. 24-hour room service. You can order steak at 4 o'clock in the morning if you wanted it, and it was good. and they had a bakery in there that you can get whatever you want. Like, it was just free. Yeah. Okay, so if that's not good enough, you can fly over 2 family members on the hotel. Whoa. Yeah, if you wanted to, and they could stay as long as they wanted to. Holy shit. They could stay the entire time that you were there if you wanted them to. The 3 days we were off, you could, I think this was the only kind of shaky thing. It had to be the group of or the majority of the band going, but they would send you to any part of Ethiopia, fly you to any part of Ethiopia that you wanted to visit,
just for like 2-day,
just get away,
sightseeing. Like, wow.
Yeah, but it was the same thing as being at the hotel. You had free car service, you had free everything. Like they paid for the stay, they still paid for your food while you were there. Like it was a dream. It was like almost unreal. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
this is just to interrupt you for a second. Like, you get into the music business, and as young people, we all have like, the dream of like getting to tour the world and this first class service, and I've found, and obviously you found, that you can very well get that first class experience, but it probably is not going to be doing an arena tour with a chart topper. It's doing like the random hotel gig in Ethiopia.
Exactly. And the funny part about that is the MD of the band, Dick Smith, Richard Dick Smith. He's a guitarist, and he played with Earth, Wind and Fire for like a few years in the 80s, and he's been with all of these top 80 bands and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, man, we didn't get this kind of treatment doing arena gigs. You know what I mean? So like, this is the real deal. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it was like they treated us like royalty. You know what I mean? Some of the most beautiful people spiritually, first of all, but beautiful women were there. You know what I mean? Like, it was amazing. You know what I mean? So that was the gig. But we played top 40s and Motown medleys and Michael Jackson medleys and stuff like that.
Just in the hotel bar.
Just in the hotel bar with all these rich billionaire type people, whatever, which was cool. The chef that actually owned the hotel, like and this is the thing I loved about the people, man. Like, he was the most like down to earth, like people, like person, like he was the most down to earth person I ever met. Is that of that caliber, or he's the only person of that caliber that I ever met, because he was like number 15, 20 richest person in the world type thing. But he was like when he met you, he would like kiss your hand, you know what I mean, and like just like whatever you need, like really humble and just like, you know what I mean. So but that experience was that experience. But the thing I got the most out of being in Ethiopia was getting off the compound and being in with the real people of Ethiopia, with the little kids that was just trying to make some money just so that they can get an education. Like when we went to the Nile River and the Nile Falls, we went on this hike thing, and we went on the hike of the Nile Falls, and like we met some of the village kids that were so grateful that we brought like pens and pads and stuff for them to like write and have, stuff for school, because they didn't have a store. You know what I mean? They didn't have any way of getting these materials.
It was some perspective to take back with you to Atlanta.
Oh yeah. Like that trip like changed my life, man. Like completely. Like, I saw this little kid on the side of the road. He had to be at least 8. And he was like washing his clothes in a bucket, like, and this is the city part of Ethiopia, So it was life changing, man.
So it sounds like you had a little bit of a false start in Atlanta. Like, you're like, I'm moving to Atlanta, and you got here, and life was like, nope, you're going to Ethiopia.
Exactly.
For 6 months.
Actually, I didn't move until after the Ethiopia tour was done.
Okay.
So my boy was like, before you come, you can stack your money, do this gig type thing. So I just kind of waited. But through me waiting, one of my friends that was on the tour with us, she was like, I have this apartment and blah, blah, blah. I just moved in with my boyfriend, and I still have the lease open for a certain amount of time. So if you want to stay in that apartment, then let me know, and you could just, stay there and pay the rent type thing. So that was something I didn't have to worry about. So I finished out the lease and then started a new lease in my name. I was able to do it. And it was like right in the heart of Atlanta. And that was a whole nother thing because I don't know if you're familiar with R. Thomas or Peachtree, like Buckhead-ish areas, like at the beginning of Buckhead, like right after Midtown. It's like right in that area. I can walk out of my back gate and be on Peachtree and go to R. Thomas and go to Uncle Julio's and go to all these different places. And, and that was, kind of like I said, I'm a country boy. So when I actually moved and I had my, truck and stuff and moving truck and I pulled into the city and I was like, what the hell am I going to do now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when, and thank God, things happened the way that it happened, you know what I mean? Because it's like I had enough money to sustain me for a while. I just paid rent because I didn't have to spend any money when I was in Ethiopia. So I'm stacking all of this money, for 6 months. Right. You know what I mean? So I'm coming here okay. Yeah. So I had the time and the luxury that a lot of people didn't have. You know what I mean? And that in itself was another lesson on timing and purpose and when you're supposed to be doing stuff and that whole thing. So when I got here, I was cool for a while. I moved in June, but the favor on it was by December, I was on tour with a national R&B artist, you know what I mean? Because of relationships, you know what I mean? My boy was like, man, I forgot you were here. Come to this audition. And I was supposed to go to Charleston that weekend. He was like, I don't think you want to go. Like, just come to the audition type thing. I was like, all right, cool. He said, well, it's not guaranteed. It's going to be you and 2 other drummers that's trying out. I was like, cool. So ended up getting the gig. And so by December, I was on tour, you know what I mean? And that relationship, her name was Melanie Fiona, our R&B artist. And then from that relationship, met some people and they introduced me to India Arie. And then, then I became friends with her and then I started playing for her, you know what I mean? Like type thing.
Let's get to that. What year did you start the India Arie gig?
That was that was in September 2011. Okay. Yeah. So.
And is it like? Do you still play with her? Do you still? And how often does she tour?
She doesn't tour a whole lot. We just did a Christmas with Friends tour. She did a Christmas CD with Joe Sample before he passed away. Actually, he passed away during the process of making the record. But yeah, we toured that album in December, and that was the last time we've been out. And it's March now. Yeah. So yeah, that was the last time. But she's she's living in New York now. She still has a place here in Atlanta. In the Atlanta area rather. And and yeah. So. And
is her band is still based here or just you?
Yeah,
the whole band.
Yeah, the whole band is still based here. Yeah.
And it sounds like that opportunity and the other R&B artists you mentioned and the Ethiopia thing. It sounds like most of the opportunities that have come your way have been because of relationships that you cultivated.
Absolutely.
You hear a lot about musicians having to hustle, right? Get out there, hit the jam sessions, do this, do that, and like that's important because you got to show your face and let people know you're around. But talk a little bit about cultivating deep relationships with people.
There's not really a science to it. It's just being yourself, man, and just being respectable, respectful, and being a man of your word, a man or a woman of your word. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I'm just blessed to have had a great mother that raised me and been surrounded by some great people that really stress the importance of good character. You know what I mean? And people when I was in my arrogant stage would say, you're arrogant, you need to chill out. You know what I mean? Like you need to pull it back. You need to get yourself together. You know what I mean? Like I'm grateful for those kind of people in my life. So I believe cultivating good relationships is outside of the deep spiritual stuff, is just being available. You know what I mean? Like never diss somebody because of where they are. You know what I mean? Like treat them with respect and treat them with kindness because they are a person, they are a human being. You know what I mean? Because sometimes in this industry, people can say, man, you know, that's my bro, this my bro, you know, he played for so-and-so, you know, like your friends always run your resume, you know, or you run your friend's resume. I love doing that to my friends because I'm proud of my friends, you know what I mean? So I I don't name drop, but I love, like, if I introduce them to somebody, I'm saying he did this, he did that, you know what I mean? Because I'm just so happy for them, you know what I mean? But yeah, just, you know, if somebody's not doing anything, you know, and they're just an aspiring musician, like mentor 'em, you know what I mean? Like good. I mean, it's, you know, it's the law of reciprocity or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like when you put out good energy, you get good things back. And, and I just been in a place where, you know, thankfully because of the people, like I said, that's like taught me good character. I'm seeing the fruits of it, you know what I mean? I'm seeing the favor that comes out of it, you know what I mean? And the fact that my boy that called me for the audition, it's a million drummers in Atlanta. He could have called somebody else, and he only called 3 people, and I was one of them. Right? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I'm grateful for those kind of experiences, and then on top of that, this is a guy that I've never played with before. He just knows that I play drums. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like,
so he knows you character. He knows you can play. Yeah. Like that's the first hurdle that everybody's got to clear. But then there's like 3 or 4 hurdles after that. Exactly. Is he a good hang? Is he going to show up on time? Exactly. Do I want to be on a plane for 8 hours?
Do I want to be on a tour bus with him for 20 hours? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, yeah. So,
and this reminds me of something my wife says all the time. She's in marketing and communications, and one of her kind of mantras is people who you deal with, either in a social or professional setting, they don't remember what you say, really. If you're in a musical setting, they don't remember what you play. What people remember is how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
And if they come away from a conversation or a gig with you feeling like, man, that dude was genuine, man, that he made me feel good, man, he was positive. Exactly. That's what they remember.
Exactly. But then on the other side of it, like the reason I said there's not a science to it, and it has to be genuine, it has to be something that you continually like cultivate within yourself, is because like when it's put on and when it's fake, people know right away. You know what I mean? Like we call it that false humility thing. Like we clown about it sometimes. Like it'd be like, man, he's fake humble. You know what I mean? Like we just clown about it a lot. But like people know right away. Like, and it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to not feel like talking to somebody. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? But it's all about how you handle it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just my take on it. You know what I mean? Because some people are great at being assholes, and they stay working because they're an asshole. You know what I mean? And they're in leadership positions because somebody needs that kind of energy to like carry them. You know what I mean? So I get it. You know what I mean? But for me, like I'm not genuinely one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like if I try to fake it, people be like, oh, he's a fake butthole, so I don't even want him around, like because he's faking it. Like he's really humble, but he's trying to be something he's not. You know what I mean? So the key to it is just being yourself and just being genuine. You know, no matter what. You know, so
and knowing what the genuine you is.
That's the first thing. You have to know. You have to know that. You know, and a part of that is like just soul searching, man, and just finding out what you know. Who you are and what you do is 2 completely different things. You know what I mean? Like I play the drums, but I'm not the drums. You know what I mean? I am a drummer, but I'm not, that's not all there is to Charles LaMont. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm a family man. I love being at home with my kids. I love watching movies. I can watch Netflix all day. You know what I mean? That's a part of who I am. You know what I mean? So like,
and it's figuring out your priorities. And like, if you look at somebody else and you say, man, I should prioritize what he's, that's not necessarily true. Like you got to have your own priorities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everything, like everybody's path is different. Like you can take stuff from different people, and like with me and Quentin, like you can, and one thing Quentin, this is another thing he taught me when I was younger. And he said, this goes for playing and everything else is his words. He said, because you're sitting under me, there's going to be a lot of characteristics that you take on from me, like from the way you handle life, from the way you play. Because people are going to say, and he said this before they even started saying, he said, people are going to say, you sound like a little Quentin. And people used to say, I sound like Quentin, you know what I mean? But he said, but then it's going to come a time that you're going to evolve and that you're going to become your own self. And then you're going to become solely, like completely who Charles LaMont is, you know, and then it's going to be your turn to start cultivating people, and they're going to be like, he's a little Charles LaMont, you know what I mean? And then the same thing, it's an ongoing cycle, you know what I mean? So that, like, that's the point of it all, you know. It's just, you know, finding yourself and finding your sound and finding your purpose and finding what you're supposed to, you know, what you're supposed to do and who you're really supposed to be.
So in addition to playing drums, you sing your ass off.
Oh, thank you, man.
And don't be all false humble. Right?
I'm being fake humble right now.
I've heard it. I've seen it. You sing your ass off. So, like, how long have you been singing, and what role has that played in your musical life?
Man, that's a whole like a whole all of my life type thing too. You know what I mean? Because like I said, my father's side of my father's side of the family was musicians. My mom's side was singers and preachers. You know what I mean? So like I grew up with my sister sing, like she sings her ass off. You know what I mean? Like she's the greatest singer in the world in my opinion. You know what I mean? So coming up under singers, it was just something that was just, you know, just second nature, almost like playing the drums. You know, because I didn't realize that everybody didn't play drums or have some kind of musical background until I was like 8. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, okay, all right, we're finished playing basketball, playing soccer, whatever. Let's go get some instruments and what? Instruments? Like, I don't play any instruments. You know what I mean? Like, you know, some
what do you
of my
mean
friends,
you don't play?
You don't play anything? You know what I mean? Like, it was weird to me that because growing up, all my cousins, everybody did something musical. You know what I mean? Like it's funny because like in my neighborhood that I grew up in, my father's parents lived a couple blocks away from my mom's parents. And we stayed with my mom's parents most of the time, you know, during the time my mom and dad was split up or whatever. Like, that's why I was kind of raised at. But at my grandmother's house, my father's mom's house, they had a shed, for a real shed. Like, it used to be a car shed, and they had instruments in there. So, like, at any given point of the day, like the PV speakers with a little amp, and microphones, a drum set, a bass amp, and a guitar amp. Like they had that
just ready at all times.
At all times, it was just in the back. So you just go in there and just start playing. Yeah. So that's how I grew up. Like we'll just go in there. Like if there's nobody in there, I'll just get in there, a little youngin, and just start hitting on the drums. So like that was my life. You know what I mean? That's what I knew, you know, and I thought it was just a hobby, you know, growing up. And like I said, until I turned like 15 or 16, I didn't know that you really get paid for it. I just thought it was just something fun to do, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I forget the question.
We're talking about singing.
Okay, singing, yeah. So yeah, singing, that's another part, you know, and I pursued a career as an R&B singer when I was younger. Did you? Yeah, but
like it along with the drums, or did you put the drums away from?
No, along with the drums. I was in high school. So I think my senior year in high school, I was with this group. I'm embarrassed to say the name, but it was called Smooth Touch. This was in the 90s, so don't hold it against me.
Man, that's nothing. Yeah. The interview that just went up this week was with Willie McNeil, who's a drummer in LA, and in the 80s he played in a band called Tupelo Sex Chain.
Ooh, so okay, Smooth Touch.
Smooth Touch.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I feel better now. So Smooth Touch was a R&B group. 4 guys. It was 2 of us were still in high school, and the other 2 had just graduated. Like they were 19 or something, and we got signed to Warner Brothers.
No shit.
Yeah, we got signed to Warner Brothers, and it was like a $1.6 million deal or something. But one of the guys in the group, his mom did. First of all,
wait, you were drumming in this group or singing?
No, singing.
Just singing.
It was like we were like. I don't know if you're very familiar with the. I know you're familiar with Boyz II Men, but you know how big the Boyz II Men 2 album was when it came out with what's the song Water Runs Dry and all that kind of stuff on it. That sound that they had when they came back out, because that sound was a little different from the Cooley High Harmony, the first record they had. That sound that they came out with was the sound that we had. Not daring to say that they stole our sound. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying like that was the similarity like of the group. So we had kind of that same type thing in that vein. So but anyway, our managers at the time, like they met with Puffy back in his when he used to work for Andre Harrell before he like right when he was about to start Bad Boy and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, man, just hold on to that group. Like we had a sound that people wanted because it was for that time. So they used to have this contest called the oh shoot, who was it? I think it was the Coca-Cola. I think it was Coca-Cola, but it was like a talent show. But we won the talent show, and but in the midst of winning that talent show, it was like a nationwide talent show. In the midst of that is when we got signed. So one of the red flags was after we won the contest, we were supposed to go to Washington, D.C. for the finals. And one of the guys in the group, his mom, and he was the only one left in high school with me, his mom wouldn't let him go because they were like super duper, like saved Pentecostal. Like you can't do nothing except gospel music. Like it was like that kind of thing that happened, which was a blessing in disguise. And in the end, it was a blessing. But so they didn't let him go to the contest, to the thing. But we was like, all right, cool. Well, we're signed, cool. Well, you know that we're signed already. So we still have to go to New York when we, da. Long story short, he couldn't do it. Mom wouldn't let him. At this time, my mom had already went and looked into getting us tutors to finish out our senior year while we was in New York recording the album and all that kind of stuff. So all of that stuff was set up. Like it was like we were getting ready to leave. We reneged on the deal because they wanted with the demo. They wanted what they signed. We was trying to find people to replace him, but he was such a strong voice in the group because he was a real I was like kind of the smooth Sean Stockman guy. He was like the Wanye of the group, you know what I mean? The force, the guy that hits you in the belly type thing. And so we reneged on the deal. Wow. Basically. You know what I mean? Like all we had to do was go to New York and sign. Right. Like if we would have went to New York and signed, then they would have had to find a replacement. Well, he would have already signed, so it wouldn't have been a way out. But if it was a situation where he couldn't have done it, it probably could have still went on. We could have found somebody to replace him. But
so why was it a blessing in disguise at that?
Because I was crazy. I was crazy during that time. I would have spent all my money. I probably would have been broke. Probably would have had all of those kids around the world. I probably would have, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I would have self-destruct. Yeah, because I wasn't disciplined enough to handle what was coming. You know what I mean? So like I look at all those things as blessings, you know what I mean? Because man, I was 17, man. I was 19 when I had my son, you know what I'm saying? So I was 17 and getting ready to get pushed into that. Yeah, it would have been, I mean, it probably would have turned out good, but I don't know.
It could have been good and bad.
It could have been good and bad.
So what role does singing play in your musical life today?
Well, I sing. I'm actually in a group called Made Men, and it's a 3-guy group. It's an inspirational group. In the group, it's more of a mission type. The mission statement is challenging men to become better fathers, husbands, sons, leaders, and role models through the power of music as we strive to do the same. So that's the whole mission behind the group, like to kind of like bring men together and like kind of like, take on our role.
Let's get our shit together.
Get our shit together. Get the young boys, you know what I mean? Like have them pull their pants up, you know what I mean? Like all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the mission behind the group. As far as the progress of the group, it's kind of challenging because of our mission statement that comes first, like being fathers to me, what I mean? So it's like all of us have, responsibilities that's kind of like slowing the progress, the process down. And one of the guys, he works for Delta, and he's like really moving up in the Delta world. He's been with them for like 14 years. So it's like now his responsibility with Delta is like getting really intense, you know what I mean? So but we're still fighting through it, you know what I mean? We're still trying to make this thing happen, even if it's just one album, you know what I mean? We want to make this thing happen, and because it's more of a mission, we're just doing what we're doing through music, but we see it becoming like conferences and like motivational type thing, and like if we you know, or when we write books or whatever, we already have like, you know what I mean, like a following, and you know, that whole thing, and it kind of continues, but the music is just the start of it.
And you just sing in that group? Yeah, just no drumming.
No drumming.
And is it a cappella? You got a band?
We have a band. We have a 3-piece band. But what we are going to do, because each person in the band plays an instrument, we'll probably do a couple, you know, things like, because I play acoustic a little bit, so like we'll probably do like, and one of the guys, he plays piano, like that's his main instrument. So we'll probably do like a 2 acoustic piano type thing, or some situations, you know what I mean, or like a percussion and acoustic and piano type thing. But yeah, so that's mainly I sing in that group. Yeah, and I write and all that kind of stuff. So, and that was one of the forces behind moving to Atlanta as well, as being a songwriter. Really, and a producer. You know, because I do some R&B production and some stuff like that. You know, and matter of fact, you talked about Dubai. A friend of mine that we did that I met when I was doing the Ethiopia thing. Her name is Jay Franklin. And I just produced 5 of the songs that she has on her album. Her album just released, and I mentioned Dubai because that's where she lives now. She lives in Abu Dhabi. Wow. But she works a lot in Dubai, and her album is doing pretty good. It's just released a couple weeks ago, but I produced 5, I think it's 5 songs on the record, and it's like an 8-song EP type thing.
So do you have a studio at home, or you go into?
I have a production station at home. Okay, I'll say that. I won't say a studio. I have some friends that have real studios at home, but I have enough to get the point across. To even record vocals, you know. So I guess it could technically be a studio.
And you do some songwriting and some
songwriting and production.
So you're becoming known as a guy who can make the shit happen for artists. If you got a singer or an artist who wants to put their record together, you're the doer.
I can get it done. I can get it done. Oh, I know how to get it done. You know what I mean? I can be the Barry Gordy of it, and kind of like I can pull in the guys who know how to. You know what I mean? Like that's one of my strong points. Like if a project needs to get done, I know who to call, who would be best fit for it, and you know,
it goes back to those relationships, man. Yeah,
it goes back to relationships, and thankfully, like some people has been calling me to do certain things. You know, like one of my friends works for BMI, and like they have like different events. Like, I need a band for this, or so and so. This artist is doing this. Like, can you put a band together real quick? I'm like, oh, cool. And I'll just call some guys and put a band. Even if I'm not playing on it, I'll just call some guys and just have them do it, you know, type thing, and get a percentage for, you know, putting it together or whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm moving into. I'm gonna play drums until I die. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I want to play until I physically cannot play anymore. Yeah, but as far as, you know, because the music industry is so broad, like it's so much you can do, man. You don't have to be touring with the biggest artists. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to do any of that, you know what I mean, to make a living at it.
Most of the people I talk to on this podcast are drummers first and foremost, but they're doing 3 or 4 different things, you know, myself included. Word. And it's all music related, you know, but I think it's another mentality that young people have, is like, I'm just going to play drums full time. I ain't doing shit else. And you know, the older you get, there's the one aspect of like, I gotta make some more money. I gotta have more dependable sources of income. But you also discover other stuff you like to do. You know, whether it's producing or writing or singing or whatever. It's like, you know, it doesn't have to be all drums all the time.
Right. And the stuff, like you said, the stuff you like to do. You know what I mean? Like, with you, like, you like to cook, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I ain't doing that for a living. I ain't doing that for a living. I've seen the pictures, but you like doing it. You know what I mean? But because you like doing it, you can have dinner parties and charge people if you wanted to, you know. Like, I mean, I guess I don't really know how
I
it
haven't
works.
thought of that.
Yeah, you know what I mean, and have like a gathering.
I'm doing it.
I mean, you got a big yard, like, you know, have a thing, you know what I mean, and just have food and wine, or like, I don't know, steak and beer night or something. I don't know, you know what I mean, like something like just invite people over and a small fee. You know,
will you come play for it?
I'll definitely come. I'll bring my djembe. Because it'll be that kind of vibe. Nah, but yeah, man, you discover a whole lot of things that you like being in the music industry, man, when it comes to jingles. And, you know, I really want to score films. Mm-hmm. Like, once again, I'm not a player like that, but I can pull in the people to make it happen. Yeah. You know, in relationships, you know, like I built a relationship with a string quartet now. You know what I mean? So it's just like, if I need strings, like, you know, I got to pay them, of course, but they're available. You know what I mean? So if I need, you know, so yeah. Cool. You know, so much you can do.
Well, you're a gentleman and a badass.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with me.
Thank you so much, man.
There you go, Charles LaMont Garner, who is as wise as he is talented. With some people who have a lot of wisdom like that, you don't quite know where they got it, like they've just always had a sixth sense about things. But with Charles, I feel like he comes by his wisdom very honestly. It seems like throughout his life, he has viewed every situation, whether it was good or bad, as a teachable moment for himself, and kept all those lessons with him. Great talking with Charles. He'll probably be in a town near you before too long, so be on the lookout for him. In addition to Working Drummer, check out the other two podcasts that are part of the Merge Network. That's the Drummer's Resource Podcast with Nick Ruffini and the Daniel Glass Podcast. Matt Krause will be back at you next week. Until then, thanks for listening and have a good one.